Humans, a contradiction wrapped in the mundane, muttered Gak, his scaled jaw flexing as he observed the bustling debate around him in the council hall. Seated in tiered rows, alien delegates from all over the galaxy, elegant Roxian, the many-limbed Tarant, and the sea-like Vera, formed an assembly of the galaxy's most formidable powers in the vast amphitheater. Standing at the center podium was Lord Prue, supreme strategist of the Galactic Empire, draped in royal blue robes woven with threads that shimmered like stardust. A tense silence gripped the room. Today, we discuss an anomaly, Lord Prue began, disdain edging his voice, the planet Earth and its rudimentary spacecraft. As he gestured, a hologram of an Earth ship materialized, a rusty, haphazard construct with clashing panels and a battered frame. Laughter erupted among the delegates. I fail to see why this primitive world warrants our attention, scoffed Admiral Vel of the Varroa, his antennae twitching with amusement. Their technology barely surpasses steam engines. Looks can be deceiving, Gak muttered, his tone cautious, but his warning was lost in the room's scornful murmurs, ignored as the delegates turned back to mocking Earth's naive attempts at space travel. Meanwhile, on board the United Earth ship Intrepid, Captain Rower took a slow sip of stale coffee from his dented steel mug, his gaze fixed on the expansive void beyond. The Intrepid was a patchwork of parts, cobbled together like a junkyard marvel, rough metal plating and mismatched bolts everywhere. But Rower knew the ship's worth. "Think they're ready for this?" asked First Officer Mason, leaning against a bulkhead with crossed arms, his uniform smeared with oil and plasma burns. Rower's eyes gleamed with a grin. "They have no idea what's coming." "Which part? Our surprise attack or the fact that this ship's held together with duct tape?" Rower chuckled. "Both." Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Lord Prue's voice rang out. "A single Earth vessel has entered the Voron expanse." His eyes narrowed as he scanned new data flashing on a holoscreen. "No fleet, no escorts, just this contraption." Admiral Vel laughed, but before Lord Prue could respond, an aide rushed into the room, wide-eyed and breathless. "Sir, a Voron warship has intercepted the human vessel." Gasps rippled through the delegates. The Voron Empire was renowned for its massive warships, colossal, shadowed titans armed to the teeth, powered by dying suns. A single Voron dreadnought could annihilate fleets. "Bring up the live feed," Lord Prue commanded, leaning forward intently. The room dimmed as a hologram flickered to life. A Voron battleship loomed over the Intrepid, its immense scale dwarfing the human ship. This plasma cannon flared, building energy. On the Intrepid, alarms screamed as Mason's voice sliced through the noise. The cannons charging. 30 seconds. Rower downed the last of his coffee, tossed the mug aside, and smirked. Plenty of time. With a quick flip of switches, the Intrepid's outer hull shifted, revealing hidden pulse cannons. The human crew moved in perfect sync, their hands dancing over the controls. On the Voron command bridge, the captain watched with a derisive sneer as he ordered his weapon to fire. A beam of searing violet light sliced through space, set to obliterate the smaller vessel. But halfway there, the beam wavered, bending impossibly as it hit the Intrepid's shimmering, energy-absorbing field. Shocked gasps rippled among the Voron officers watching the feed. Rower's gaze sharpened. "Let's return the favor." With a calm command, the human ship's pulse cannons fired. Not showy, not blindingly powerful, but the beams struck with a quiet hum that rose into a resonant force. The impact tore through the Voron ship's defenses. Sparks erupted as panels burst apart, the dreadnought shuddering, venting gouts of smoke and exposed compartments into the void. In the Galactic chamber, silence settled over the stunned delegates. Admiral Vel's posture deflated, his usual smugness gone. "What was that?" Lord Prue's jaw tightened. For the first time in his long reign, his confidence faltered. "That was ingenuity." The council's grandeur felt diminished as the image of the Voron dreadnought, its hull split and smoking, remained frozen in holographic display. The council sat in uneasy quiet as Lord Prue spoke again, his tone tempered with new wariness. "This Earth vessel may be using technology that's more advanced than we understood. We cannot dismiss this threat." Across the chamber, Gak stood taller, his earlier warnings now vindicated. "Humans don't build according to tradition," he said, voice steady. "Their technology is woven from their own defiance." Vel's usual sneer had faded into a grim line. "If one vessel can cripple a Voron dreadnought, what happens when they send a fleet?" Lord Prue's eyes flickered with grim realization. Gak's words gnawed at him. The chamber, once brimming with mockery, now buzzed with anxious murmurs. Just then, a data feed blinked with updates. The Intrepid had moved off, leaving the Voron battleship limping through space. "Deploy scouts," Prue commanded. "Track that ship. I want to know where they're going." Aboard the Intrepid, Rower leaned back, propping his boots up on the console. The bridge was quiet, but the unspoken pride and relief filled the air. air. It wasn't just a victory, it was proof of their worth. Mason let out a breath he'd been holding. Think they'll still call us reckless? They'll need new words, Rower replied, a wry smile tugging at his lips. Over the comm, Chief Engineer Patel's voice crackled through. Ships holding, Captain. Dampeners worked. Shields are recharging, but we'll need 2 hours to be at full strength. 2 hours, Rower repeated, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. Mason shot him a wary glance. You've said that twice now. Makes me nervous. Rower shrugged. Only way to live, Mason. Back in the Galactic chamber, the delegates watched as Voron scout ships launched in pursuit of the human vessel. Tension rose and arguments broke out. This is an act of provocation, Admiral Vel bellowed. Gak, now at his limit, finally stood up. Provocation? No, Admiral. Luck didn't guide them. Humans make their own odds. They don't fight with numbers or advanced designs. They win by adapting, by seizing what others overlook. Enough. Lord Prue's voice cut through the clamor. We need more than speculation. I want hard data. I want a full assessment of human combat strategies and technologies. Nothing left to assumption. A nearby hologram blinked to life, revealing an engineering report from Earth, smuggled in months ago, dismissed as primitive back then. Now, it drew intense scrutiny as delegates combed through each line. Here, Gak pointed to a diagram of adaptive field generators. They pieced this together from scraps, failed tech and salvage, but they found a way to redirect raw energy. That's how they shattered the Voron plasma beam. A heavy silence followed, and then, realization. They transformed a vulnerability into an advantage, murmured Prue, his eyes narrowing with newfound respect. No wonder they caught us off guard. Meanwhile, aboard the Intrepid, cloaked alien scouts were trailing at a cautious distance, transmitting every movement back to their fleets. But Rower was hardly oblivious. Contacts at 4 and 8 o'clock, Mason reported, pointing to the faint signals of stealth ships skirting the edge of their sensors. They think we don't see them, Rower chuckled. Oh, let's give them a little wake-up call. A laugh crackled over the comm as the Intrepid's engines surged, shifting the ship's alignment and releasing microbursts of energy. The pulses scrambled nearby frequencies, briefly disrupting the scouts' cloaking fields. For a moment, their signatures flashed on the Intrepid sensors, and the alien vessels scattered in alarm. Rower's grin widened. Let them know we're watching. News of the Intrepid's maneuvers hit the council chambers quickly, stirring fierce arguments. Lords debated tactics, while admirals questioned defenses. The human vessel isn't heading toward any known base, one officer reported. It's moving in random patterns. Not random, Gak corrected. They're testing our response, probing our defenses. Deploy the fleet, Vel barked, his impatience seething. Show them what true power looks like. Not yet, Prue replied, raising a hand, calm but firm. The Intrepid's sensors pinged as a formation of galactic ships appeared. Cruisers, sleek interceptors, a barricade of glinting metal and charged weapons. Rower glanced at the data without a trace of fear. Looks like they want to dance, Mason muttered. Then let's show them our moves, Rower replied, rising to his feet. All stations, prepare for action. Time to remind them Earth isn't as primitive as they think. With that, panels flipped, switches activated, and the hum of energy grew into a powerful roar as the Intrepid accelerated forward, moving with a predator's grace. The interceptors fired first, blue plasma bolts streaking toward the human vessel. Hold steady, Rower ordered. The Intrepid dipped below the plasma fire, its energy shield flickering as it absorbed the shots. In a swift maneuver, the ship rolled, its pulse cannons firing back, catching the interceptors on their flanks. Distant explosions punctuated the dark void. On the bridges of the galactic ships, initial disbelief turned to frantic commands for countermeasures. The humans reacted faster, adjusted more intuitively than any simulation had ever predicted. The Intrepid wasn't there to destroy them all. Its goal was disruption, and it succeeded. It left behind a fleet disorganized, scarred, and questioning their own strategies. As the galactic fleet drifted in disarray, emergency lights flashing across damaged hulls, frantic voices crackled over the comms, sharing damage assessments and scrambling for new orders. The Intrepid, now a dwindling point on their sensors, moved away steadily, almost lazily, with a quiet defiance that resonated louder than any battle cry. Sir, they're retreating, Mason said, breaking the quiet tension on the bridge, his voice tinged with disbelief. The alien formation, once an impenetrable wall of power, now scattered like debris swept away in a solar wind. Rower nodded, his gaze fixed ahead. Message delivered. Let's go dark until we're clear of their sensors. Patel, activate the silent newfound drive. "Aye, Captain," Patel's reply came, carrying a note of pride. The lights dimmed, and the Intrepid shifted into a quieter hum as auxiliary systems took over. Moving like a shadow, it slid into the nearby asteroid field, cloaked by its modified stealth technology. Back in the Galactic chamber, pandemonium reigned. Once certain of their fleet's superiority, the delegates now argued heatedly over tactics and oversights. Admiral Vel, his face flushed with anger and humiliation, turned toward Lord Prue, fists clenched. This was no accident. These humans. Enough, Vel. Prue cut him off, his expression strained by the weight of realization. The humans had revealed something far beyond what any of them expected: ingenuity, intelligence, adaptability. It was more than brute strength, it was strategic mastery. Gak stepped forward. Their advantage isn't just technical. They're unpredictable because they don't follow the norms. Our simulations are useless when they ignore the conventional rules. Prue's gaze sharpened. Then we'll learn from them, their tactics, their innovations. Next time, we won't rely on tradition. Vel's scowl deepened, but he remained silent, his Anoni twitching in reluctant agreement. The Empire's next moves would be calculated, not from arrogance, but from necessity. On the Intrepid, the tension eased, though adrenaline still coursed through the crew. Rowers stood at the viewport, watching the stars blur past as they glided away from the expanse. They'd made their statement. Earth was no longer a footnote. Mason crossed his arms and chuckled. "We're going to be legends, you know." Rower met his gaze, a hint of a grin breaking through. "Not legends, Mason. Just a headache they'll never forget." The comm crackled, and Patel's voice came through, steady and reassuring. "Stealth systems are holding, Captain." "Good. Let's take the scenic route home," Rower replied, the gentle hum of the engines filling the bridge like a calm heartbeat. They weren't invincible, but they'd shown something even more vital. Humans, with their scrap metal ships and defiant spirit, were a force that couldn't be overlooked. News of the battle spread quickly across the galaxy, and the once dismissive voices now spoke of humans with caution, respect, and a hint of trepidation. In the shadowed halls of the Galactic Empire, admirals met behind closed doors, revising strategies under dim lights. "They won't stop at one ship," Gak murmured, his gaze distant. On Earth, engineers worked tirelessly, spurred on by the Intrepid-S reports. The galaxy had uncovered humanity's secret weapon: ingenuity, daring, and a refusal to be bound by anyone's rules. And somewhere out in the vast unknown, Captain Rower sat back in his chair, eyes on the endless stars beyond. "Let them come," he whispered, the grin still lingering on his face.